Hi, I'm Braddock District Supervisor James Walkinshaw. Thanks for tuning in to Braddock Voices, where we talk to Braddock District and Fairfax County residents and leaders who are working to make our wonderful community even better. To stay up to date with future episodes, community news, and local events, sign up for the Braddock District email list. Just email us at braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov and we'll send updates directly to your inbox. And before we start with today's show, as always, we have our four-legged friend animal spotlight. This is an animal available for adoption from the Fairfax County Animal Shelter. And today's spotlight is Molly the Terrier. Molly is an 11-year-old brown and white terrier, slightly over 50 pounds. She's at the animal shelter because her family simply could not care for her any longer. The shelter workers say she's a lovely senior lady who's looking for a family who she can relax with in style. Molly seems to do fine with other dogs, but might need to avoid a home that has high-energy dogs, as it might be too much for her nowadays. However, once she's comfortable, she usually plays with chewing toys and enjoys back scratches. If you want to meet Molly, call my office at 703-425-9300 or email us at braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov and we'll connect you directly with the animal shelter. And with that, we'll start today's show. We're very fortunate to have Paul Gross and Sarah Lennon from the Friends of Royal Lake. The Friends of Royal Lake is a volunteer group that works to help preserve, protect, and improve Royal Lake and its surrounding parkland in Fairfax. The Royal Lake Friend Group works with the Fairfax County Park Authority to support, enhance, and advocate for specific park and lake projects that are important to the community. Friends of Royal Lake also works with the Kings Park West Civic Association to coordinate joint activities. In addition, the Kings Park West Civic Association provides some funds for Friends of Royal Lake related activities. Paul and Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And why don't we start and just give you all an opportunity to tell us a little bit about Royal Lake and Royal Lake Park. And I have to say, we're very fortunate in the Braddock District to have 5 lakes, and this is a Braddock District quiz. And I won't ask you to name all 5, but I will. Lake Accotink, obviously, that people maybe are most aware of. We have Wood Glen Lake, Lake Barton, which is being dredged right now, Lake Braddock, and of course Royal Lake. I suspect that you all feel like Royal Lake is probably the best of those 5, but I'll give you a chance just to tell us a little bit about the park and the lake.
Okay. Really, Royal Lake is surrounded by 2 parks. It's surrounded by Royal Lake Park and Lakeside Park. It's a community park, but because of the nature of the lake and the size of the lake, it in many ways acts like a larger regional park or like a Burke Lake in many ways. We have a lot of nature hikes and walking trails. We have the lake itself, of course, with a lot of fishing and kayaking, but we have just as important playgrounds, picnic areas, baseball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts, basketball courts, and which I may talk later on, exercise equipment at stations around the lake for people who want to walk and exercise and a variety of different things. So it's a very active park, and particularly since the start of the pandemic has even become much more popular.
So Royal Lake and the 2 parks adjacent to it are open to anyone in the community to visit. It's not only for nearby residents, and a lot of folks do take advantage of that opportunity. Excuse me, sorry. Can you all just tell us a little bit about Friends of Royal Lake and your respective roles in the Friends group?
The Friends group is really an informal group of community people who were concerned about improving the lake, maintaining the lake, and the parks around it, really. We are not a formal organization in the sense that some Friends groups are 501c3s. So we advocate for the community. we advocate to the Park Authority and the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, and that is responsible for the lake. And at the same time, we have volunteer teams, which are sanctioned and supported by the Park Authority, where we do trail maintenance and cleanup and those sorts of things. I'm the president of the organization.
So I'm vice president,
Yeah.
I guess, is we sort of go back and forth sometimes with the actual terminology since we are informal. But I do a lot of the communications and outreach for Friends of Royal Lake. And I got involved with it when I was the Kings Park West Civic Association Parks and Lake Committee chairperson. And so we linked up forces, basically, so that we brought the interest and sort of the power of the Civic Association to support Friends of Royal Lake. And then just last year I became president of the Civic Association, so that helps even more. So that we do have funding that the community provides to the Civic Association for the Parks and Lake work, that we use some of that money to support activities that Friends of Royal Lake has identified through community polling as priorities.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, I don't think you mentioned this, but when was Friends of Royal Lake started? When was it founded?
It started probably 6 or 7 years ago.
And what was the impetus?
The impetus at one point around the lake, the President's Council for Physical Fitness had put in exercise stations that Wells Fargo
Which
had
those
funded.
of us who were in elementary school in the 80s would remember the President's Council
Yeah.
for Physical Fitness. Yeah.
So we had reached a point where that equipment was old and dilapidated, and several members of the community wanted to put in new equipment. And so we started to raise money, working with the Park Authority, and got a real lesson on how things work, how you have to meet environmental concerns and all that. But the community really got behind that, and we raised enough money and with contributions.
So
and
this was kind of an ad hoc group working
it was
on
an
that
ad hoc.
project.
That project,
Yeah.
matter of fact, most of the people, except for myself, are probably no longer doing that. But
Yeah.
that was the impetus. And the second was there was a lead up to the dredging of Royal Lake because the silt it was really filling it in. And at that point, I had held a few, community-wide or local group and neighborhood. Really, it started out as a neighborhood discussion. And with the impetus of a person on the park board who was in our neighborhood also, Tony Vellucci, he said, we ought to really make this a friends group. And from that, we just started. And it's I think, pretty successful in our efforts to really engage the community. As Sarah and I were talking earlier today, just don't stand back, get involved. And we have a nice, straightforward way of getting involved and having people in the county government who will work with us on that. So it's very, very
and
nice.
That's one of the topics that I want to ask about, because I certainly, you all have really done an incredible job of getting people energized and excited around the Friends group and around the lake and getting involved, which is a challenge these days,
Yeah.
right, for a
Mhm.
lot of organizations to get volunteer engagement and involvement. And how have you gone about doing that? What has made that so successful?
Well, I think one thing that we did a couple of years ago is we decided, we did a poll, a Survey Monkey, to see how did people use the park, what were the most important things, what would they like to see more of, or what needs to be fixed, and that really made people realize that they could have a voice. So my slogan became, make your voice heard for the parks. And so on every email and posting, I would put that in so people felt that they actually could have an impact, that even if they're one voice, you put that together and you get a very strong message. And so from that Survey Monkey, we pulled all the information out of it and we started creating a new master plan for Royal Lake for the parks, because it had not been done in many years. We decided not to really push the actual formation of the master plan, but from that plan, we developed the point paper that we've shared with you on really what does the community feel is important. And again, I think that's why it's been successful, and people have seen that, they said, we'd really like to see, more porta potties or dog waste stations, so, people can pick up their trash or, their dog's waste, and through the Civic Association funding, they arrived. And so people could see, oh, A plus B equals, we actually see concrete results.
Yeah,
So-
tangible impact of their involvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things we did after we did the survey was we had a series of community meetings and received additional input from people. And a couple of those were a couple of the best meetings maybe I've ever attended, because you had 30 people in a room, everybody very civil, everybody talking about how they would like to see improvements, sharing ideas, changing their minds when a better idea came up. Kind of a real testament to democracy in a sense. And so we were real pleased, and we, as Sarah mentioned, we put out a community vision plan, what we called a vision plan, and have those various projects listed, which we then shared with the county government,
Right.
The park planning, park authority planning group.
Well, and we want to get into that
Okay.
specific list, but first let me ask a question that just came to mind. What are the impacts that you saw in terms of COVID, or did you learn anything as a volunteer organization during COVID in terms of how you operate, and also did you learn anything new about the park and how people are using the lake and the parks during COVID?
I walk the park every day, and have for a number of years, and I probably saw more people on the trails than I had ever seen before. Certain activities such as fishing became much more popular. For a while there, you couldn't use some of the playground equipment, but as that opened up, it's not unusual for me to see on the lakeside playground 50 people there at any one time, just walking by. So that part, it reflected in people's minds the importance of the parks, particularly when your other activities are limited, and I think I have not seen a lessening as we're starting to open up. So I think this is going to continue on. I think the parks are become more and more a part of people's lifestyles, which is wonderful, really.
I think they really see the value in having the nice, open, clean green spaces. So people could gather socially distanced and have a celebration of some sort when we got past the lockdown part of the pandemic. And so I think people really now probably value more the parks and the lake itself. And I think for Friends of Royal Lake, we were able to continue talking and working. We all got really good at Zoom calls. We had our first in-person Friends of Royal Lake meeting that you joined us just recently, and it was so nice to see people again. But we were able to continue planning and strategizing and using modern technology to keep the work going.
Did you find when you were doing the virtual meetings, was the participation less, more, the same as your pre-pandemic in-person meetings?
Well, very good question. I would say probably about the same, because I think we only had one community-wide meeting, and that maybe a few more, because it is easier, to pop on for half an hour if you instead of having to travel. But in terms of our leadership team, that was the same.
Now we talked about the Friends kind of vision for the lake and the parks, and we're going to get into the specific projects. But tell us about some of the volunteer on-the-ground work that you all have been doing and organizing over the last 5 years in terms of cleanups and other work in and around the lake.
We've really done a series of lake trail maintenance projects. It's we're very fortunate that the county does a very nice job of keeping up the playground equipment and the ball fields. Both the soccer field and the baseball field are maintained very well. and they've upgraded the basketball courts and put a nice feature, a little overhang. Normally you have the stanchion where the basket is, and that's when the court ends. Well, they've extended that out so when people are doing layups, they don't drop off and break their ankles. So it's some very nice things. But as a friends group, we have concentrated primarily on park cleanups and trails. The park cleanup, how many do we hold a year?
2 a year.
2 a year.
Yeah, one in the spring, one in the fall.
Yeah, and there's a number of citizens who also walk around and do it on almost a daily and
On their
weekly
own.
basis. Yeah.
Mhm.
We also have the IMA activity. That's the invasive management, which has, there I see groups of people doing that sometimes 4 days a week or 5 days a week, every
Wow.
day
Mhm.
for usually 3 to 4 hours in the morning.
Yeah.
So it is.
And for listeners, the invasive management work is quite literally digging out or tearing out invasive plants
Yes.
that have taken root and
Mhm.
spread, unfortunately, throughout the county and
Yeah.
throughout parkland. So very
Yeah.
labor-intensive.
Extremely.
And then also,
difficult
and then
work.
replanting
That's right.
the good
Yeah.
plants and
Yep.
the good trees
Replanting native-
that are
native
donated
plants. Yeah.
to the organization or to
Yeah.
the groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of trail maintenance, which is where we really get a nice number of
Mhm.
people to come out, just volunteers, we've done a few of these with Eagle Scout projects too. So we've kind of it's a good way for the scouts to develop their leadership skills, their organizational skills, and do something useful for the community.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be future leaders and friends groups and that sort of
Absolutely.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But where the steep parts of the trail, we put in steps in 3 different locations.
Mhm.
We have put in a new trail segment.
Mhm.
There was part of the trail that goes around Royal Lake that went through the parking lot, and we didn't think, along with the Area 4 maintenance supervisor, that was really safe. So we put in a brand new trail segment there, and that was done with the Friends Group and an Eagle Scout project, as a matter of fact. We've upgraded. One of the members of the leadership team has walked the entire circuit trail and developed a spreadsheet for about every 12 feet on what needs to be fixed and what doesn't need to be
Wow,
fixed
okay.
in
It's
priority
amazing.
order.
Right, graded A through F
Yeah. Oh my
and
gosh, okay.
color coded. It's remarkable.
Yes, I think he used to do this for World Bank projects
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah,
we've
okay.
got some skills
That's a
on
real
the team.
Fairfax County story there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have a number of different projects to actually build and implement that his plan for
Yeah.
trail maintenance.
Yeah.
One of the great things that in the last trail maintenance workday that we had a couple of months ago, first one after the pandemic, it was fascinating to see all these late elementary, middle school, high school kids getting out there with the wheelbarrows to truck the gravel that the park authority provided, dump it, and then they didn't realize that they were getting like math and physics lessons. But when the park authority guys were saying, well, we have to angle it like this, and I was just watching and listening, and they were just soaking it all up, not realizing everything that they were actually learning. They were just
Yeah.
thinking, we are pounding things and we're making piles of dirt. So it was great
Right.
fun, great exercise, and the education that they were getting
Really
was just,
hands-on
it was
learning.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
hands-on learning.
Great to see.
And I guess the final thing maybe not final, but another thing we did was we've planted some trees. First of all, some right next to the picnic area, but then Sarah was involved with a third-party organization that worked through us to put trees between the Lakeside Park, between the baseball field and the basketball court. And someday we're going to have a nice little growth of trees, the shade
Wow.
trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And we worked with Hugh Whitehead of the forestry group of
Yeah.
Fairfax County.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. I wanted you all to lay all of that work out for us because, for the listeners, it's important to realize how much throughout our park system in the county we rely on volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go and enjoy your local park in your neighborhood or elsewhere in the county, there is some group of volunteers, whether it's a formal friends group or invasive management workers or just, informal volunteers who walk around the park and help clean up and pick up trash, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Eagle Scouts, Cub Scouts, working to help maintain and keep that park clean. So it's a great opportunity for folks to get involved, whether it's through a friends group like Friends of Royal Lake or some other organization to help us maintain and keep our parks the incredible, beautiful asset that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, let's go into the projects and initiatives and plans that you all have in conjunction with the county to make Royal Lake even better.
Okay, what we did through that, we talked about the survey and a series of meetings. We came up with a comprehensive community vision plan, and there was lots of different things on there. But what we did is we prioritized that into some maintenance and capital improvement. And I'd probably like to start out primarily with the capital improvement things. The first one. And there's kind of a thread here, as I mentioned earlier. A lot of the things like playground equipment and that, they're really, we're doing a nice job. The county's doing a nice job for that, and they're very heavily used, and we very much appreciate that. I think there's a growing awareness within county government that the trails are very important to the community. And myself, having walked that about every day, I see dozens and dozens of people. It's not unusual that I go in one direction and meet 50 different people crossing the lake.
Yeah.
So we have a few projects which kind of fall into that category, and our trail maintenance, our trail upgrades, and then some others. First one, they didn't do it this year, and it's the first year in the 36 years I've lived next to that park that we didn't have soccer, but it was because of the pandemic.
Right.
But one of our projects was on Lakeside Park was an upgrade to the entrance between Richardson Court down to the park.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an asphalt which is kind of breaking up, so we have listed that. And by the way, all these things that I'm going to be talking about, we have sat down with the Park Authority Planning Group and asked them to fund it, or maybe if it's too much for the bond money to do that.
Right.
So that the entrance to the soccer field, that's an important one. It's going to take, it sounds simple, but I'm not sure with the new requirements the grade is sufficient. So I think you're going to have to almost build a little bridge to walk up high, down low to get to the field. And then then I've already talked about the trail improvements around, and we have a number of those. And so far, and I think it will definitely continue. The county has provided the resources, the gravel, the stone dust they call it, culverts, and that sorts of things for us to do the work. Another one is a shade structure at Lakeside Park. That Lakeside, except for the 3 trees that we've planted with the Park Authority and DPWS, is essentially sunny. Well, this time of the year,
Quite hot.
yeah, it's quite hot. It's not. So what we're kind of an open air, just a covering of some kind, a shelter. Then we went to one of the community, with strong support from Park Authority Maintenance, is to replace the bridge that crosses Rabbit Branch.
Mm-hmm.
They would like to make it a little wider and a little stronger so they could drive their maintenance vehicles over it.
Sure.
And we just want to make sure it doesn't deteriorate, because it is you have to have it to get around the lake,
Right,
is what
sure.
it amounts to.
Sure.
So that's really kind of a neat project. There's one project that's probably a little more controversial, but it's develop a trail from Commonwealth Boulevard down to Lakeside Park.
Right.
And that is a wetland area, so that would have to be done very carefully in selecting the right spot. But it might, what we want to do is increase people's entrance into the park without driving.
Yeah.
In other words, ride or walk to get
Right.
to where you have to be. We also talked about improving the trail, making a natural trail, and that's what most of our trails are around on Shane's, what we call Shane's Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a DPWS stormwater management extensive project going in at Shane's Creek. And I was the community representative because of the Friends Group in the county meetings, which included DPWS.
Now,
and
Shane's Creek, there's an interesting story behind the name of Shane's Creek, right? Can
Yeah.
you share that with us? Because people might think it's named after a guy named Shane.
Yes, it might. You would think, and I was hoping that it would be named after some colonial ancestor because
Right.
the Fairfax gravesite is close by. Actually, one of the very active members of the community who did a lot of trail work would take his dog out to that area to walk, and the dog's name was Shane. And so there we are.
So there we are, named after.
His name,
named
as a
after
matter of fact, the
dog
county was
Shane.
calling it Rabbit Branch Tribute at Collingham Drive,
Right.
I think was what they, and I said, everybody calls it Shane's Creek. So they said, well, put in a request and change the name, and that's what we
All right,
did.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, in memory of Shane.
In memory of Shane.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. So for all, you started out with a dog story, so
That's
there
right.
you are.
There you
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that trail will be improved when the county completes, when the stormwater management, it completes the Shane Creek upgrade, which is very extensive. And that's another area where the Friends Group was involved because there was a number of community meetings and we were asked to participate as a Friends Group, and which we did. And indicated some trees are going to come down, it's going to get a little messy, but in the end, it's a much better environmental impact.
Yeah.
So I think those were the major projects that we had. And you could see some of them would require some funding and obviously Park Authority and extensive involvement, if not most of their work. Where we can use volunteers, we always do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's such an important service that you all are providing in terms of gathering additional community input and consolidating it and advocating, on behalf of your park, because it does belong to you and all of us here in Fairfax County. So thank you for doing that. We are just about out of time. One thing that I want to make sure to mention is starting tomorrow night and throughout this summer, we will be returning. We unfortunately had to cancel last year, but we'll be returning to Royal Lake Park for our Braddock Nights concerts. And we will be there at 7:30 p.m. every Friday through mid-August. And I think Paul and Sarah, you're going to be guest MCs, right? Helping us?
Paul's the first MC, I'm the second one.
Okay,
so.
all right. So if you want to meet Paul and Sarah in person, you'll be able to see them Friday nights for the Braddock Nights concerts, free community concerts. Anything else either of you want to add or share before we wrap up the show?
I would love to just mention that if people want to find out more about Friends of Royal Lake, you can find us on Facebook. We are just Friends of Royal Lake. We also have a new website as of about a year ago, and again, it is friendsofroyallake.org, so easy to find us. We made it simple. And then you can email us at friendsofroyallake@gmail.com. And any one of these ways you can get on our mailing list. I post a lot of our events and links to interesting stories about, how to improve the environment, things to do, not to do in the parks, and simple things. Clean up after yourself. Don't leave your fishing line. And so we share a lot of that information on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to check that out and email us if they want to get involved.
Great. So
We
if
have
you enjoy Royal Lake or would plan to enjoy it, get involved with Friends of Royal Lake Park to help continue making it better.
Please
Please
consider
do.
it.
We
Yeah.
welcome everybody. Everyone's got strengths that can help.
Great. Paul, anything else? Final words?
No, we also, just the fact that we have a website, it was mentioned a website, we also have a very nice newsletter that people can keep up on what we're doing.
Yep.
Great. Well, Paul Gross and Sarah Lennon from Friends of Royal Lake, thank you so much for joining the show. And more importantly, thank you for your incredible volunteerism and work to make this beautiful park what it is. And thank you all for tuning in to Braddock Voices. That's all the time that we have today. Braddock Voices, where we talk to Braddock District and Fairfax County residents and leaders who are working to make our wonderful community even better. To stay up to date with future episodes, community news, and local events, sign up for the Braddock District email list. You can email us at braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov, and we'll send digital updates directly to your inbox. Thank you and have a great day.